This is Whitey's world. If you go from Squantum, where he lived with Kathy, it's basically 6 miles if you drive it up to Castle Island over there. That's Southie, where he did most of his crime. He murdered people there, he buried people there, and he went to sleep there. So that's his world.
Certain themes, we can reference other films. Does that work?
Sure. Whatever you want.
We've got a lot of films to discuss in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I figured a good place to start would just be what drew you to Whitey as subject matter. What was it that spoke specifically to you?
Yeah.
Maybe not the broader themes or the broader implications, but maybe him as a figure.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you look at my resume, you know that I'm a true crime person. So of course I've always known about the Whitey Bulger story and have long been fascinated by Bulger. Fascinated not just because he's a guy who ruled the Boston underworld for 25 years and didn't even get stopped for a traffic ticket, but also because of the incredible myth-making machine behind him. You know, this is a guy who's had a dozen books written about him, 2 feature films are in the works, there's been other television programming. You know, we're on a first-name basis with him. I mean, Whitey, you know, you say Whitey, you know who the guy is. And yet we know very little about him. And there's so much conflicting mythology and a lot of allegations of corruption that have never really been deeply looked into. And yet, despite this interest, I never thought I had anything to add because so many books, so much has been written about him. But when it was announced that he was actually caught after being on the lam for 16 years and that they were actually going to bring him to trial, I thought this is a perfect opportunity to cover the trial and use that as a present tense springboard to kind of separate the man from the myth, to go into what, you know, what made this guy possible and what is myth and what is real. And that's kind of how I approached the project.
You mentioned that you're a fan of true crime, and that's like a genre we understand in literature, but how do you arrive upon the structure of how you're going to present the story when you return to this kind of mode so many times? Like, how do you determine how this story gets told? Especially as you say, like you weren't sure you had anything to add, but then something new happens.
Well, you know, look, different stories have different demands, but generally speaking, I think I'm interested and have made a lot of films about trials. And we could talk specifically in a minute about Whitey and what that approach was like. But in general, I'm you know, Brothers Keeper, the 3 Paradise Lost movies, even Crude is a trial in another country, of course. But I'm interested in crime and the intersection of crimes when they actually get to trial for a couple of reasons. You know, as a storyteller, my little niche in documentary has always been for the last 2 decades, and I'm not the only person who does this or who believes this, but I enjoy, from a storytelling standpoint, trying to give a documentary all of the narrative qualities that a good scripted film has, you know, to try to take real life and give it a dramatic structure, you know, with all, in the classic sense of the word, rising and falling action, and you know, all of that dramatic narrative stuff that makes a good film. And trials are a natural for that, because there's obviously a beginning, a middle, and an end. The very definition of drama is conflict, and when you have two opposing sides, each vying for their version of the truth, that produces conflict. The stakes are very high because usually somebody's on trial for something very serious. So just as a storyteller, I gravitate towards that and always have. But from a social issues standpoint, I am also very interested, and this is where the documentarian comes in, the social issues documentarian. I'm very interested in our criminal justice system and its proper operation. I think the most treasured value we have as Americans, you know, our core, you know, perhaps the most core American value is a belief in our personal liberty. And prosecutors and the criminal justice system have a very unique power to take that liberty away. And so I think it's the duty of anyone in the media and any citizen to make sure that the criminal justice system operates fairly and blindly, like Lady Justice is supposed to be blind. And unfortunately, the criminal justice system is run by human beings, and when you empower human beings to run a system, it's obviously going to run off the rails from time to time and make mistakes. And so, and when the criminal justice system makes mistakes, like in the case of the West Memphis Three, people's fundamental right of freedom gets violated. And so, for whatever reason, that issue speaks to me. So, as both a storyteller and as somebody who cares about the proper functioning of the justice system, I guess that's why I've been attracted to these kinds of films over the years.
Well, thank you so much.
Cool. All right. That was 45 minutes?
30.
Oh.
30.
Oh, good. Is that enough?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, good.
Really
Thanks a lot. Cool.
It's a great film.
Great, thanks. So someone will email me and tell me it's online somewhere?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right.